The world watches with bated breath as every headline brings a new wave of anxiety and uncertainty. Grappling with crises that threaten peace and stability, nations are on high alert, trying to navigate through these troubled times. From Gaza to Washington, 2025 has been marked by escalating conflicts and political upheaval. The geopolitical landscape is more volatile than ever. The Israel-Palestine conflict casts a long shadow, with recent violence sending shockwaves across the region and beyond. Innocent lives are caught in the crossfire, and humanitarian efforts are stretched thin, trying to provide relief amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, the United States faces internal divisions and political battles with a nation increasingly polarized and uncertain of its global role. The political climate is charged, with debates and disagreements spilling over into the streets, media, and homes across the country. Amidst these turbulent currents, a wave of activism sweeps across the U.S. as citizens protest against injustice and inequality, demanding change. The voices of the people grow louder, calling for a better future, as they march for justice, equality, and a world where peace can prevail. The Israel-Palestine conflict has erupted into violence, shattering hopes for peace. The situation in Gaza has become increasingly dire, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The international community watches in dismay as the violence escalates, fearing the potential for a broader regional conflict. The Israeli ground invasion of Rafah marks a significant escalation, with ground troops moving into densely populated areas. This move has intensified the conflict, leading to more destruction and loss of life on both sides, raising fears of a wider war. The residents of Gaza are fleeing their homes, seeking safety from the relentless bombardment. The humanitarian crisis is deepening, with thousands of people displaced and in urgent need of aid. The fragile ceasefire lies in tatters, unable to withstand the renewed hostilities. Efforts to broker peace have failed, leaving the region in turmoil, shattered by renewed airstrikes and rocket fire. The skies over Gaza are filled with the sounds of explosions, as both sides exchange heavy fire. Hundreds of Palestinian civilians, including women and children, have lost their lives. The toll on human life is devastating, with countless families mourning the loss of their loved ones. The images from Gaza are heart-wrenching: bombed-out buildings, families torn apart, and pervasive fear. The destruction is widespread, leaving the city in ruins and its people in despair. The international community condemns the violence, with world leaders calling for an end to the bloodshed. The United Nations has issued statements urging both sides to cease hostilities and return to the negotiating table, calling for an immediate ceasefire. Diplomatic efforts are underway to bring about a lasting peace, but the path forward remains uncertain. The recent escalation serves as a stark reminder of the human cost, with countless lives disrupted and communities torn apart. The impact of the conflict is felt far beyond the immediate area, affecting the entire region, and a call for renewed peace efforts. There is a glimmer of hope that through dialogue and negotiation, a peaceful resolution can be achieved, bringing an end to the suffering and paving the way for a brighter future for all. While the world grapples with Gaza, the U.S. faces increasing division and political gridlock. President Trump's controversial policies further polarize the nation. His executive order to dismantle the Department of Education sparks outrage among educators and parents. Critics argue it would undermine public education and exacerbate inequality. The Trump administration's hardline immigration policies draw fire from human rights groups. The reopening of a Michigan detention center for asylum seekers fuels concerns about the treatment of immigrants. Beyond Gaza and the U.S., the world faces multiple crises threatening regional stability. From Africa to Europe and the Middle East to Asia, no region is untouched by turmoil. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the M23 rebels tighten their grip on mineral-rich provinces. The conflict has displaced thousands, creating a humanitarian crisis that the international community struggles to address. The seizure of Wali raises fears of wider conflict. The local population lives in constant fear, as the fighting shows no signs of abating. In Turkey, political tensions rise with economic uncertainty and a crackdown on dissent. The economic crisis has led to widespread protests, with citizens demanding change. The arrest of media figures and Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu heightens tensions ahead of elections. The government's actions have drawn international condemnation, further isolating the country. The refugee crisis continues, with the recent capsizing near Lampedusa sparking calls for greater action. Thousands risk their lives daily, fleeing conflict and poverty in search of a better future. Amidst global crises, a wave of activism sweeps across the U.S. against injustice and inequality. On college campuses, students demand accountability and transparency, filing lawsuits for alleged brutality. The case of UCLA students suing for alleged brutality highlights tensions between students and authorities. Beyond campuses, rallies and demonstrations erupt as citizens demand social justice and economic equality. Progressive lawmakers challenge the political establishment, demanding bolder action on climate change and healthcare reform.